You know, tonight I must have told the kids maybe 50, 60 times to just quiet down a little. Maybe they're stupid, or maybe they're just kids who just don't listen. And even though they like me, even go for them, say maybe even they love me. They don't have enough faith that what I'm telling them, what I'm saying to them, is actually good for them, their future, good for us, and good for the guests. You know, it's a place of acceptance. Whatever is happening, it's kind of like what Morpheus says to Neo repeatedly in Matrix 1. Things are happening because they're just supposed to be this way. He just leaves it at that. He doesn't examine it. He's not looking for cause and effect. He basically accepts whatever conditions are at hand. I don't know how someone can reach that stage where even if everything about their life is falling apart, it's kind of like a very Hegelian way of looking at life, which is life is going towards a direction that's going to be positive. It's going to help you mature, help you gain some insights and understanding about just the nature of life. And you sit back and say, you're telling me that my divorce is like good for me? The answer is yes, have faith. It exists in the future. You have to wait until the answers come to you. The sayings are by Ali, and he has a book called Nahjul Balagha. And there are many, many stories in the book where his, I think it's his cousin or his brother goes to him, says, well, now that you are in a position of power, can you give me a position in your government? And he takes a red hot piece of iron and puts it in his palm. Well, that's a little difficult to kind of explain, but when, an arrow was pierced into his chest, when they were going to take it out, he says to them, take it out when I'm praying, because when I'm praying, I'm actually merged with God, and then I can't feel my body, then you can take the arrow out. The problem with these things is that your mom, for example, tells you, Allison, take advantage of your youth. It's like Ali saying, having faith is very honorable. Your mom is 30 years your senior. She has certain experiences, she has certain insights that you don't have access to. So she gives you an idea, and the idea sounds good. You just don't know how to make sense of it. I can't claim to know what faith is, because that phrase doesn't come from me, it comes from Ali. Ali happens to be the cousin of the Prophet. The Prophet happens to have given his cloak, to Ali. He has a very high position in the Islamic tradition, in the Islamic spiritual tradition. So I'm not quite sure the sort of faith that Ali is talking about, how that faith kind of plays itself within him. In a couple of days, Diana is going to get on a plane and go to Mexico. And Brian is going to go to Iran. They have a good amount of faith that the plane is not going to crash. And maybe because they've been on the plane so many times, and because when they hear the news doesn't often say that this plane crashed or that plane crashed. They have had so many positive experiences in regards to flights that the idea of crashing and dying just doesn't even occur to them. That's faith. I think someone like Ali has lived a certain lifestyle for so many decades. He just trusts whatever is happening to him in his life. His daughter died, killed. His son Hussein was killed. His son Hassan was killed. Perfect being. By the way, if I know you guys work tomorrow, but anytime you feel like you just need to go home and sleep, rest your bodies. You don't even have to say goodbye, just sleep. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be negative about everything. It's Brian's fault. He brings out the worst in me. You shouldn't be deceived by those phrases. They don't really mean anything. No, they really don't mean anything. They're just. Lulu, you have to let me finish this because I'm at a stage in my life where I forget.
Me too.
Oh, okay, then you go then.
No, you go.
I've done enough talking for a few lifetimes. مرا میبینی و هر دم زیادت میکنی دردم تو را میبینم و میلم زیادت میشود هر دم به سامانم نمیپرسی نمیدانم چه سرداری به درمانم نمیکوشی نمیبینی مگر It's a poem by Hafiz that you see me and you increase my pain. God sees me, or the teacher, or whatever. From above, you once in a while look down, see me, and then increase my pain. I see you, and my desire for you grows tenfold. The chaos that you create within me by seeing me, and the chaos that I create for myself from my desire for you, has made me homeless inside and out. It's a very sad poem. It's like 25 lines. But you know, human emotions fluctuate. Certainty, when you have doubt, you believe in God, then you lose your faith. I don't think it'd be wise to kind of look at a phrase in a book somewhere. Someone says it's really good if you have faith. And then you internalize that phrase. You say, how can I get to that place? I don't know. Your mom probably has the answer. Sorry, go ahead.
Going along with that, I mean, are we not always, I mean, we want to be alive. I mean, okay, we're here, right, in this earth. We're alive. So then, are we not always tricking in ourselves to like, look at the world a certain way in order to keep existing because it's shitty?
Allahu Akbar.
I'm sorry. If there's no hope, then what the heck is it all about? So then are we not always kind of like using ideas and stuff to kind of like, you know, play around with our own mind in order to keep existing? Then, I mean, what is it all for then?
There was this guy who was teaching at Stanford. I think he was teaching psychology some years ago. I don't know what his name was, his real name. But he was on the side giving his students drugs to experiment with. And then he got fired from Stanford. And then he went to India and he became enlightened. He gave himself the name Ram Dass. You know. And he came up with this idea, and then he published the idea, several books. And Westerners really just took the idea and they really enjoyed it. And the idea was, close your eyes and imagine yourself to be in the presence of a teacher. You, you can draw a picture of this teacher any way you want. You can give him a big nose, no nose. He could be blind. He could have whatever. It doesn't really matter. It could be Eeyore, the donkey, and Winnie the Pooh. It doesn't just, you know. But as long as you create this image and you believe that this image is your teacher, then you know this teacher will come to you in dreams. He will inspire you, and all sorts of things. And the truth is, we've been engaged in this trick for a long, long time. There's really no other choice that we have. It's the only way we can make life work for us. I mean, look, he is living in Iran. Do we know higher trick than that? And forgive me, Brian. I walk into the classroom and talk. We give everything to these kids in hopes that one day they can understand them. I don't think I'll be alive to see that day. About 99.9% of these books are completely useless. Keep them as decoration. It's true. I mean, most of the things that I have in my life are irrelevant. It's the case with all of us. I'm building a deck downstairs. I don't even go downstairs. Carolyn just bought a house. It has such a big yard. She can't even walk. This is how it is. It's we have to play this game, Lula. There is no other choice. Oh, don't fight it, Lula. You know, when the first thing I asked when I came to this room tonight was, I looked at Carolyn and I said, "So, Carolyn, how's that door looking?" It's closed. You know, no tricks there. It's just closed. You hope that the door be open, but it's not. I mean, the front door. But I think all in all, whatever game it is that you play, I hope you can enjoy it. There's a- It's good to see you, Lula.
Thanks. I'll go think about that. Painful.
Well, I have them for the kids for the most part. Even when I go to Auburn to take care of the car wash, there's a bookstore that sells used books. Every book is $1. So I look for the fanciest book cover, thickest book. They just fill up the space. How do ideas come about, Carolyn? You know, when you become a good cook, and that's after you have followed, recipes for many, many, many years, and you have, followed the recipe, and you've baked some really good stuff and cooked some really good food. And all of a sudden, something about you just clicks, where you say, All the books I've read about cooking, it's about people who've gone out there. They've really enjoyed food. They have a very sensitive and refined palate. They experiment, they try, they fail. But they have the resources and the willingness and the desire to just make food taste absolutely delicious. And then you say, well, I'm a really good cook. And then what happens is, from that point on, you rarely look at a recipe book. Now you begin to kind of just make your own cookbook. At first, you just experiment with various things. And then you become very proficient. And you just write your own book. But you have to have the talent for it. And I remember when Tiger Woods had just came on the scene in golf, and he played Masters, and he had done things that no one had ever done before him. He had done 18 holes in like just 2 minutes, and he got a perfect score. And then the commentator said that maybe we should just make the golf course a bit more difficult, because this is a joke. No one can even come close to this guy. And it's because it's far too easy for him. And I don't know if they made changes or not. And if, for example, someone was to ask, well, how do you make a Tiger Woods? He's just like an anomaly. It's like a weirdo. What all these books have in common is that someone was just interested in something. And then they had the talent, first the resources, the leisure to lock themselves in a room and then write. Some of these books are scholarly, academic, where we don't really need to be talented at all. Just kind of cut and paste. Others are a bit more creative. What is creativity really? Something about it keeps nagging at you. And you have the eloquence. You're very articulate. You're very observant, very reflective. You sit and just write stuff down. And then you go back and you just edit what you've written. And before you know it, there is a book. That's what a book is, And if you happen to be able to tap in, or the muses are able to tap into you, and make reflection creative, then you have no use to read books. In some ways, it makes you arrogant, because the assumption is that there is nothing in these books that you can learn from. The truth is, there are lots of things to learn from these books. Everybody kind of expresses the same idea in a different way, perhaps a bit more creatively, a bit more eloquently. Some people just make new discoveries, but maybe you're at a place where you just don't care about those things. It's very much like relationships. What is it? You find someone, they look relatively okay, you go out with them, you fall in love, and then they'll come telling you didn't take out the garbage, you missed the bill, you did this, you did that. So all relationships are the same. They go through the same ebb and flow. So why, walk away from this one to get myself caught in the other one that resembles very much like this? Let me just work hard at this one. And I think once you understand how everything basically functions the same way, you lose interest in those things.